Hello everyone, Campbell Woods here, head coach, Maris Men's Crew. We're here with our race recap of our duel today with MIT in Boston. Came into the morning expecting some really horrible conditions based on the forecast for the last couple days, and we ended up lucking out, which is rare in the Northeast at this time of year. So we ended up with pretty flat water most of the morning. There was a kind of a puffy crosswind, temperatures in the low 40s, but very rowable, nice conditions. So we were pumped. The rain held off for us. Special thanks to MIT for hosting us in Boston. They've got a gorgeous boathouse facility there, and great referee team right there, and it's really one of the cooler places I think for the athletes to race in the Northeast, right in the center of Boston, in the basin on the Charles River. So this is the third or fourth time we've been up there to race MIT, and hope to keep that going in the future. We raced 3 races today. We had the Varsity 8, second Varsity 8, and third Varsity 4s. The only real change or thing that came up on the day was we had an athlete in our second Varsity 8, Mason Roy, who got some sort of food poisoning, we think, really bad stomach bug kind of deal. And so he's been out for the last couple days and was unable to make the trip this morning. And so we asked Liam Clem, Jr. on the team, if he could step up and do double duty for us today. So Liam rode the varsity race in the 4-seat of the Varsity 8, and then he hot-seated on the water directly into the 2V and rode in the 2-seat for the 2V. So thanks, Liam, for doing that. And that made it so that all of our boats could get their races in. The Varsity 8 had a rough week. It was a rough week kind of for everybody. Bad weather all week. The days that we were able to make it out were not great, really, up until yesterday, up until Friday. The 2V wasn't able to go out yesterday because of Mason being out. And the previous 2 days, our 4s they went out, but they kind of had a tough practice in rougher water. It was rainy and cold a lot of the days. So our practice on Wednesday, which is usually our big 2K prep work for the week, was a much shortened event from what it normally would be. V8 had just a tough week of practice. We seemed to have a hard time finding some rhythm. We were doing some switching between those 2 athletes I already mentioned, Mason and Liam, kind of trying to help the varsity find some swing, find some rhythm. And they seem, the V8 seems to have a lot of power available, but just having a hard time finding a rhythm, which is a shame, because I think when we were down in Virginia getting double practices every day, we were really feeling a good sense of swing in the boat that has been missing for the last week or so. So it kind of came in today. We had a better practice yesterday, and we're hoping to deliver that. We came out really hot off the line, which was cool to see. Great start, and we were up 2 or 3 seats on MIT's varsity off the line. That was the first time that we've been up on another team off the line this season, so including all of our scrimmages, and so that was cool to see that we'd kind of figured out some speed at the start line. But once we came down off of our high strokes and shifted into the body of the piece, it kind of became apparent that we were having a really hard time finding a rhythm, just like we had the rest of the week. And so I think that was kind of the story of the race. It felt like the boat never really got grip on the water. We were spinning our wheels a lot of the time, and then once we got down, MIT started to walk away, and it felt like we got a little bit frantic when that happened. So, you know, in general, you know, I would say the real goal of this next week for the V8 is just going to be rhythm, getting more comfortable at our base, really solidifying what that base should feel like, and really putting our mark on the middle 1,000 meters of the race. I think we've done some good technical work on the front end of the race, and we really need to just work on the body right now, get really confident, and find a kind of infectious rhythm for the boat, more like what we were seeing during our spring training trip in Virginia. The 2V was opposite story. The 2V kind of came into the week. We'd had a number of good days. They took down the varsity in a couple of pieces earlier in the week, which I think kind of added some confidence and a little bit of swagger to the boat. And we also were talking to them a little bit about the race this weekend. It was evident from the results last weekend that there was a big fall off between MIT's varsity and their second varsity crew. And so the 2V had talked about that, and had kind of targeted this weekend's race as a winnable race against that crew. And so I think they came into the week with like a really strong sense of purpose, which was cool. And it was apparent every day at practice that everybody was really focused in on doing what we needed to do, in spite of all the conditions and things that were happening. So 2V had I would say a good but not great start. They were maybe a seat or two down on MIT. Pretty close. It would have been hard to say the margin off the line, and then pretty quickly started moving up. They were maybe, after the first 500 meters, they were maybe a seat or two up on MIT and kind of holding. And then in the second 500 meters of the race, really started to pull ahead. By the 1,000-meter mark, we were about astern on MIT, and then ended up walking away to maybe a half a boat length of open water wind. So it was definitely a very front-loaded piece, front-heavy. The first 500 meters were the fastest by far, and the crew, basically it was a drag race. We got ahead and stayed ahead. So it was a very good race. I think the 2V had what the varsity didn't, which was a very long, strong rhythm in the middle 1,000 meters of the piece, the body of the piece. So very well implemented race. We were pumped for that crew. Made a solid plan, committed to that plan as a boat, and then delivered that plan today on the water. So it was a great job for them. They got the win. The 3v4s, again, a tough week of practice, and also that group had been in an 8 up until Monday of this week, so not a lot of time spent preparing to be in a 4. The A4, we felt like didn't have their best race. They were definitely showing a little bit stronger rowing during practice. Once MIT got ahead a little bit today, their coxswain kind of steered into our lane a little bit, and were causing our boat to be rowing in their wash for most of the race piece. And so I think that was really frustrating for the boat. They felt like they just couldn't get into clean water. They were kind of hemmed in to their lane and rowing like half behind MIT's boat the entire race. And so that was tough. But Josh and I kind of talked to them after the race about, well, you've got to be in the race. You got to be, next to the other crew if you want to hold your lane and really force them to stay on their side. And so I think the MIT crew, they were a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit stronger than our crew, but they also were outrating us quite a bit in the 4. The B boat, I actually think had a really good piece. They probably outperformed what we had seen during the week. They, a number of times during the week, they had fallen way behind the A4, and I think today they stayed within about a length or two of open water to the A boat. So I think they came off the water feeling like they delivered a pretty solid improvement from where we started the week. So that's the recap for today. Next weekend, we've got the Knecht Cup in Camden, New Jersey. It's both Saturday and Sunday. Should be a great regatta. The varsity 8s are going to have about 12 boats in the event, and so we'll look forward to being, a true 6 boats across lane racing. Great venue. And I know a lot of parents and alumni are planning on being there, so please feel free to attend. I think would be hard to give a result or a potential result. We feel like it's a race that will be in the middle of the pack. And a lot of good crews will be there, a lot of middle of the road crews, and some crews that we feel that we can beat. The second varsity will be in the second varsity 8 event, and the third varsity will be back in the 8. They'll be rowing as a B boat in the second varsity event because they don't have a separate 3v8 event at Knecht Cup. So looking forward to next weekend. Every boat has something to work on this week. We're hoping that the weather is going to improve and become a little bit more spring-like for us. And we'll be excited to take our next regular season race and see what we can do. Looking forward to seeing some of you next weekend. Thanks to the alumni and parents who stopped by today in Boston. It was great to see you. Go Red Foxes.